Can we what? And we're back. Okay, so remember when I was talking to you about science before and the scientific revolution, and well, I said you need to kind of dispel the fact that church and science are going to be totally off on the wrong foot. This is where we're going to start to see church and science. So I said it'd be 19th century before we see some real problems between the church and science. This is when it comes. If you want to mark that here, before, it hadn't really done anything to discredit the church. It had just proposed some new ideas. But in the 19th century, there will be some direct, like, that doesn't match with what the church or Bible says. Or at least the way the church interprets the Bible. So, scientific ideas and methods are going to enjoy huge popularity and prestige in the public mind after 1850. Science kind of becomes like a type of religion. It comes to be what people look at to answer questions rather than always just resourcing the church, the Pope, the Bible. Now I don't want to make it sound like you have to be one or the other. There are people who have their very religious faith, but then also know like they're going to go to a doctor if their arm starts to turn green. Like they're just the different camps of answers. And so that's kind of where we go. To some, however, science will become almost a religion, and they will embrace it as such because they start to ground everything in it, but not for all. People can see how the link between science and technology improve their quality of life, like people are living longer because of medical care. Electricity would be pretty cool if you never had it before, so all of these things going. Pretty cool in general. I enjoy electricity. So our first part of science, we're going to talk about the bacterial revolution. There's going to be a couple big names here. You will recognize them. Like I said, I am not a scientist. You are taking AP Euro to get out of some history course in college, either so you can take more history or you are trying to get the history done so you don't have to take it in college. Either way. So I'm just going to go over how it applies to history. The bacterial revolution is important to us here because it's going to significantly reduce the mortality rate. I underlined that for you in your notes. This is where we see that shift. Medicine starts to be the reason that the death rate is lower, not anything else. We saw in the agricultural revolution earlier that had to do with it. Now it's mainly the bacterial revolution science. Louis Pasteur is our first individual here. He developed the germ theory of disease. Before this time period, they thought that odors caused disease. Like if something smelled bad, it was obviously going to get you sick, like AKA the Black Death. They were still on that kind of medieval train of thought, like, ew, that smells stinky, that poop. Like that would get me sick. Well, in some cases, like with cholera, yes. Other cases, no, it just smells really bad. Like rotten food isn't going to make you fall over and die. But they thought it was bad smells. So Louis is going to say, I think there's these germs that we might want to be careful about. Like if someone else is sick, like you might want to stay away from them, even if they're not stinky. Okay. So we'll see that. He's going to give us pasteurization. Pasteurization has become a huge part of my life right now. Just to let you know, there are all kinds of things I can now not eat that I really, really want that are not pasteurized. There's just all kinds of sushi, let's see, feta cheese, hummus, all kinds of things that do not go through the pasteurization process because mainly they're from either internationally. What? No, raw eggs, not pasture. Yeah, look at life right now. I know it's hard. First world problems I'm having here. All right. So pasteurization is heating something up so it's hot enough to kill the germs and then letting it cool back down. So pasteurization, pretty simple, right? Pretty important. It helped reduce food poisoning. It helped kill bacteria. That's good for the whole human race as a whole. So nothing really fancy there. Next is Lister. I always remember Listerine because it kills germs. That's where they take it from his name. He didn't invent like Listerine. He developed the antiseptic principle. Like, man, all these people are dying after surgery. Do you think like the doctor should like clean the area he's going to cut into before he cuts into it? That's an experiment we could run. What's the variables? Dirty guy, cut into him. Clean guy, cut into him. Oh, he didn't die. And so Lister's going to say, let's not perform surgeries on an open, dirty wound. It results in far fewer people dying of infection resulting from surgeries. Hence, Listerine means like it kills germs, like in your mouth there. But they like used this nurse here. I don't know if you guys can see, but he's holding, and then they would like spray it on. So it's like an antiseptic spray before you cut into the patient. So not totally advanced as you think about now and like all of that. I don't know if you've been in an OR, but in my previous life of working in labor and delivery, we would drape the patient and clean the patient, and they are sterile and in sterile gear, and everyone else is in sterile gear, and all of the instruments are sterilized. And so, I mean, that's a lot further than this. Right now, they're just like, let's just clean the skin of where we're going to cut him open. So, pretty cool stuff there. Diseases such as typhoid, typhus, cholera, and yellow fever would now be under control due to vaccines. So, thank you, vaccinations. Although there's a huge debate about that now, I get to hear more than I want to hear about it because everybody feels like they get a say. And I'm like, it's been working for a long time. I'll make that decision. But lots of vaccinations, lots of people say. Yeah. They had to give us something, right? Alright. Dmitri Mendeleev organized the rules of chemistry by developing the periodic table. It did not look in its current form as it did when it first started. Here's the original over a picture of him. So it would have been way less to memorize in school at that point. Jealous. So, and it keeps adding. And so it's one of those things that changes. Just like I had to relearn the planets and what's a planet and not a planet, and new additions and all of that fun stuff, because they changed that too after I got out of school. So fun. What you get for being old. Next, electromagnetism. I know. They should just put us all somewhere and get us out of your hair. Electromagnetism. So the streetcars we were talking about, best way to describe it. There's like the electric goes and it runs a little motor. Basic discoveries in the 1830s resulted in the first generator applied to electric motors. I have no motor, anything to give you. Streetcars. That's all I got. Next, did I skip? Did I skip with some people? I did. Okay, well, you can just look at this handsome gentleman for a little while. So Faraday, did I go? Did I click? I just clicked backwards. Oh, I didn't skip. See? Auguste Comte is a French gentleman. He becomes the father of sociology. He thinks the individual is more important than the group. So we will see that. He thought that history could be understood in 3 stages. So like the first stage would be theological. So that would be where you would look more like through Jesus lenses, through church lenses. The second phase is metaphysical. So that would be like the phase in the French Revolution, Enlightenment phase. And then the third phase is positivism. And this is this new stage that he says would take over. And that is all intellectual activity progresses through predictable stages, as humans would soon discover the eternal laws of human relations through the study of people, of sociology. And he believed that social scientists, as myself, as a social studies individual, could help regulate for the benefit of most everyone, help regulate society. He became the leader in the religion of science and desire for rule by experts. Okay, so, sociology, how many of you are taking sociology in high school or plan to take it in college? Okay then. Well, you might not run across him again, but if he comes up on the AP exam, father of sociology, 3 stages, positivism. Okay, guys, my voice is leaving me today. We've been prepping for a test. Too much talking. Darwin, on the origin of species as means of natural selection. He should be very familiar to you. We have 3 big guys that you have to know from this unit. The first one being Karl Marx with the dialectic, and then we're going to see Darwin, and then we're going to see Freud. So those are like your big 3 from this time. Freud, I know, I grimace. He gets to stay on the list because the old white guys keep putting him on the test. Yeah, I know. I like to mockingly talk about, and I'm not going to go into extreme detail here. We're going to get what we need. Some of you already know too much about Freud, and some of you know just the right amount, which is very little. Alright, so Charles Darwin, Karl Marx and the dialectic, he's going to kind of take that. You guys all know the story, the H.S. Beagle, and he goes to the island in the Galapagos, and there's the birds, and I'm not going to, yeah. And he is from this going to apply the theory of evolution. All life had gradually evolved from a common ancestral origin and an unending struggle for survival. The species who was most able to adapt, survive, pass those genes on to their offspring. They survive. They are the fittest. You guys all have that. Impact of religion. Darwin's theory refuted literal interpretation of the Bible, the book of Genesis, and it's going to start to create some crisis in church. This is where we see the church and science kind of come to a head here, because they're like, oh no, like evolution doesn't take 7 days, so what do we do with that? And so there's some problems between the church here. And he would say the elimination of the weak is natural, where in some Christian tendencies it would be, like help the weak. The meek shall inherit the earth. So some direct contradiction. Also, Darwin's got this guy called Thomas Huxley, who is his bulldog. He's his biggest supporter. There's this really long quote. He's obsessed with Darwin. And I don't think he even knew Darwin when he first started, communicating and sending him letters, which is even creepier, right? I'm going to send you this really raving thing about yourself. But in the end, it says, I am sharpening up my claws and my beak, ready to come to your defense. And I could have been like, I need a police officer stalker alert. But he is going to promote Darwin's ideas, and really get them out there. And then we're going to see Darwin's ideas applied to society, which I'm sure you studied in U.S. history with imperialism. We're going to see social Darwinism come to the head with Herbert Spencer. There's my theory of evolution. I love this meme, survival of the fittest. I don't think he got the memo. Let him go. I forgot. I threw in some fun Darwin stuff. I know. Let it go. I threw in some fun Darwin stuff, and I forgot all about it because I made this last weekend. There is actually a book and a website called the Darwin Award.
Oh, yes.
It is about, the individuals you really hope, do not make it to procreate, do not make it to have children to further on this planet. It's being...
So I know the story of the first guy who got a Darwin Award. He was trying to commit suicide by hanging himself over a cliff, drinking poison, setting himself on fire, and shooting in the head. So he this is the story.
Okay.
So he hung himself, got himself on fire after drinking the poison, and he was about to try to shoot himself, but he was hanging, he missed, shot the rope, fell off the cliff into the water below, which put out the fire and made him vomit up the poison with the fire. And then a passing boat picked him up and he was in the hospital. And he died in the theater.
So is that successful, or he just didn't add one more way to die to that list? So I do some in here because I think they're funny. This is from 2010. We're going to go from 9th place to 8th place very quickly because everyone needs to have some fun on the last day in class before the weekend. Plus, it's just hilarious. 9th place. In Detroit, a 41-year-old man got stuck and drowned in 2 feet of water after squeezing head first through an 18-inch sewer grate to retrieve his car keys. Thank you. Yeah. You're just there, just your head stuck, just drowning in 2 feet of water. But, alright, 8th place, a 49-year-old San Franciscan stockbroker who totally zoned when he ran, accidentally jogged off a 100-foot cliff on his daily run. Daily, same route run. Zoned out and jogged right off the cliff. Next one, 6th place, while at the beach, Daniel Jones, 21, dug an 8-foot hole for protection from the wind and had been sitting in a beach chair at the bottom when it collapsed, burying him beneath 5 feet of sand. People on the beach used their hands and shovels to try to get him out, but could not reach him. It took rescue workers using heavy equipment almost an hour to free him. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. 5th, just it took 8 feet. It took 8 feet to I've never brought an umbrella to the beach. And 5th place, Santiago Alvarado, 24, was killed as he fell through the ceiling of a bicycle shop he was burglarizing. Death was caused when the long flashlight he had placed in his mouth to keep his hands free rammed into the base of his skull as he hit the floor. 4th place, Sylvester Bridle Jr., 26, was killed as he won a bet with friends who said he would not put a revolver loaded with 4 bullets into his mouth and pull the trigger. Great friends. Wait for it. 3rd place, after stepping around a marked police car marked at the front door, a man walked into the H&J Leather and Firearms intent on robbing the store. The shop was full of customers and a uniformed officer was standing at the counter. Upon seeing the officer, the would-be robber announced a hold-up and fired a few wild shots from a target pistol. The officer and clerk promptly returned fire, and several customers also drew their guns and fired because he's in a gun store. The robber was pronounced dead at the scene by paramedics. Crime scene investigators located 47 expended cartridges. The subsequent autopsy revealed 23 gunshot wounds. Ballistics identified rounds from 7 different weapons, and no one else was hurt. Honorable mention. Paul Stiller, 47, and his wife Bonnie were bored just driving around at 2 a.m., so they lit a quarter stick of dynamite to toss out the window to see what would happen. Apparently, they failed to notice that the window was closed.
Because you can buy that.
2 in the morning. Let's just go, yeah. So, runner-up, second place. Carrie Bingham had been drinking with several friends when one of them said they knew a person who had bungee jumped from a local bridge in the middle of traffic. The conversation grew more excited, and at least 10 men trooped along the walkway of the bridge at 4:30 a.m. Upon arrival at the midpoint of the bridge, they discovered that no one had brought a bungee rope. Bingham, who had continued drinking, volunteered and pointed out that a coil of lineman's cable lay nearby. They secured one end around Bingham's leg and then tied the other to the bridge. His fall lasted 40 feet before the cable tightened and tore his foot off at the ankle. He miraculously survived his fall into the icy water and was rescued by 2 nearby fishermen. Bingham's foot was never located. So this guy somehow survived, but he is still going down on the survival of the fittest because now he can't move very fast. So we're waiting for his demise. It's got to come shortly, right? And the winner is zookeeper Friedrich Reidstalt in Germany. He fed his constipated elephant 22 doses of animal laxative and more than a bushel of berries, figs, and prunes before the plugged-up pachyderm finally got relief. Investigators say ill-fated Friedrich, 46, was attempting to give the ailing elephant an olive oil enema when the relieved beast unloaded. And so he unloaded and buried him, and he suffocated in the excrement.
Oh, dude, that's
How much? I don't think that's possible for an elephant.
22 doses, yeah. Poor guy.
That elephant's innards came out too.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just thinking, like, if you have, first of all, a guy who has an elephant you would hope would have some kind of training. But you know where all that's going to come out, right? Like, why are you standing right there? Go to the other end of the elephant.
What did you do?
Like, or to the side. Like, do you see? Like, pounds of berries, figs, and prunes. And then everything that it had eaten before.
That is a lot of donuts.
Yeah, it's a lot. Oh, so there's Herbert Spencer. He's going to apply Darwin's ideas to human society after our fun here, which we just applied them to human society, I guess, in our own way. He said that natural laws dictated why certain people were successful and others were not. So there's some guy out there who successfully gotten his elephant unconstipated and he survived. Other guys, not so fit, and they have, yeah, drowned in poo. So they're going to use it to say, like, why I am rich and why you are poor is I am fitter and you are not. Later used by imperialists to justify conquest of weaker peoples, especially in Africa. Also used by major industrialists to justify their wealth, like I said, while others struggle for subsistence. And also you would think a social Darwinist isn't going to be a big fan of these social reforms we saw. They're like, you are like messing with the process if you give aid or welfare to someone. You are just like ruining it. You need to let the unfit do what unfit do and just kind of go away. They support laissez-faire. They want competition with so that the best can rise to the top. That would be a social Darwinist. So we have kind of like a reaction to and against these social reform movements as well with social Darwinism. I won't read you the whole big quote on the descent of man. But it's just pretty much saying what I just said, that we need to get rid of poor laws, We need to get rid of vaccinations. The people who have weak constitutions are the only ones that give in to disease. Kind of harsh, yeah. So next, see the size. I'm going to make it as painless as possible. I'm going to hit just what we have to. So our third guy. So first is Marx, you definitely need to know. Second, Darwin. And third, Freud. You'll need to know is one of our three giants of the 19th century. He's a Viennese physician. He's in contrast to the rationalism of the Enlightenment. So the Enlightenment would have said we very consciously can make decisions. We are rational beings that make decisions. We know what decisions we're making. We can be reasonable. We are educated. Freud is going to say the opposite. He's going to say we're irrational creatures, that we are driven by desires that are in our subconscious that we do not have control over, that we have no reason, and he calls into question our rationality. He divides the mind into three parts. I'm sure you've heard all of this: the ego, the superego, and the id. All we really need to worry about is the id. The id is what he says is our driving desires that we can't control, that is in our subconscious that really makes us do what we do. It's our biological desires to take a breath, to blink, to eat. He's going to say sex is the biggest one that drives everything, and we are suppressing it in the Victorian era, and therefore that is the root of all of our problems. But we'll get to that in a second. He said, thus people are not in control of themselves as many like to believe they are, that is just like our ego telling us. He said that it is the horse and the ego is the rider of the horse. And we'd like to pretend that we're in control, but you all have seen a horse, as a rider, when something goes, the horse decides to go and buck you, you are just gone. So he says the ego is the rider, the it is the horse, and we really like to pretend we're in control, but we're not. And then he would say the superego is what we're taught to do. So it shoulds all over us. Like, you should study. You should get your DBQ done by Monday. You should not kill that person in the hallway. It shoulds all over you, and so that's the superego. Shoulds all over you. It's your morals. He emphasized sexuality a lot in everything. He said that it is pretty much just our sexuality. It was a key driving force. And if we repress that driving force, we end up with neurological problems. With neurosis. We have neurosis, we shove them down, this causes psychological problems. Then our dreams are symptoms of these psychological problems. And then the only way to get rid of psychological problems conveniently is this technique of psychoanalysis that Freud promotes. Yes, ma'am. So I was like, wait a second. I was like, no wonder Sadie hates Freud so much. Her uncle actually died of his id. I don't know, what? His ferret died. I never knew anything. What about male ferrets? So these are just not pets. How would you explain that to a kid? Well, your ferret while you were at school didn't, I'm not having that conversation.
That's why you get the boy.
Just goldfish. After it dies afterwards, you can get the death box.
Or you just put another goldfish in there. So it's exactly the same as the last goldfish.
Yeah,
That is a good way to cop out of it, but we are real, okay?
we are in realism. That's a romantic way out there.
Yeah.
How convenient is it that your only way to get past these repressed things and these neuroses that have been caused by them is by Freud's psychoanalysis? It's how you solve these problems. You have to bring them to the surface, to your top, to the conscious. He believed hysteria of his patients originated in unhappy early childhood experiences from suppressing their early childhood sexual desire. He just goes and goes. His daughter is kind of a badass. She pretty much became a feminist. He was very misogynist. But yeah, she kind of countered a lot of his work, if you get a chance to study her later. He used hypnosis. He thought he could unlock your mind, your subconscious, and get to the root of things. Good old Freud. Drinker, lots of other things, but changed the way we looked at the human brain, that we weren't in control of everything. Kind of opened some windows for it crazy, like I was crazy when I did that, or I wasn't in control of myself. So we'll come back to that later, but you do need to know him. He's our last great of the three giants. And here's just like, so here you've seen probably the iceberg before when talking about Freud. So the super ego part, your ego, your id, are underwater, and very little of it is known to you that you can control or you have availability to. And the id, I want it now. The ego, I need to do a bit of planning to get it. And the super ego, you can't have it. It's not right. Shoulds all over you. So, psychoanalysis, very copy picture what it looks like, what it would have looked like then. I don't think they still do this lay on the couch, let me take a tablet kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I would just be like, so we get a nap to analyze this dream. Like, I don't know. So, new physics, yay! Marie Curie and Pierre Curie discovered the first radioactive element, radium, in 1910. Yay for them. It killed them. That was their life's work. They spent a little too much time with it, or a lot too much time with it. So that's really all you need to know. I'm not going to go into all of the details there. Ernest Rutherford is going to split the atom. Good for him. In 1919, he postulated the structure of the atom with a positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electrons. That has impacted you in your high school career, I'm sure. Later, spoiler alert, this becomes destructive. So, nice for you, Rutherford. Max Planck, who's a very, cranky-looking man, gave us quantum theory, where subatomic energy is emitted into uneven little spurts called quanta, not in a steady stream as previously thought. So before they thought that like energy was a constant and steady. And he's going to, this is all really important. What it's important about is it shows that there's smaller stuff than like this is just a desk. Oh, there are smaller things that make up this desk. So that's just important. He also is going to prove that laws governing the universe now seemed unpredictable. This kind of makes Newton look like crap, because he was like, everything's predictable, everything has a law, everything. So this counters that. Thus, matter and energy might be different forms of the same thing, and it shakes the foundation of 19th century physics on the building blocks of matter. That brings us to Albert Einstein. You've heard all of those stories, so I'm not going to go into like his whole life in detail. You never get to see a young picture of him, though, so I just had to go in there, because he's always, when he's older, I don't know, he just looks so different. I mean, it's the same guy, but he looks different. 1905, Einstein's going to give us the theory of relativity. Isn't that the name that the pigs won this year? Albert Einstein?
I hate that.
Oh, the fetal pig.
Our name was, Hanson.
Oh. There were some good names. What was that? Oh, that's cool.
What's this?
It did?
Like, that's the thing, nobody understands how to
Why are we naming the pig?
Yeah, there were a lot of like pop culture ones.
Why are we naming the pig?
I don't know, they named the fetal pig.
Then why would you name it? You're gonna cut into it. Don't get attached.
I don't know. When I was in college, we named our cadaver Bob.
That's even crazier. That takes it to another level.
It just, yeah. I don't know, it made it, I don't know, like a transition from a scientific tool. I don't know, it gave me some humanity. Let's see, Einstein, what do I want to tell you about him? He theorized time and space, viewpoint of the observer. So he's really going to give you that idea that things are relative and not absolute. So it depends on where you are or what time you are of what things are. So things are not just like standard. So like for instance, he did that twin thing where there's two twins. One leaves Earth on a spaceship traveling at the speed of light at the age of 20. So it takes him 10 years to get to his point in space and 10 years to get back. So how old would the twin on Earth be? He was 20 when it started. 10 years out, 10 years back. So 20 years in space. So the twin on Earth would be 40. And so then the twin that went to space, who traveled 10 years by the speed of light and 10 years by the speed of light back, would still be 20. So everything is relative. Yeah. The idea that at the time and So, the infinite, yes, so that's Einstein. EMC equals MC squared. You guys can know. You just need to know that he kind of revolutionized absolute values to be relative. Don't go all, I'm not going to go crazy with it. Impact of new scientific theories on the European mind. Here's the meat of this lecture. So, here's why we need to know it. Darwinism further challenged the Bible's account of the creation of humans, and we have a conflict between the church and science. Freudian psychology undermined the belief that humans were rational. So now we have to forever deal with the fact that we are in control of our own minds. Impact of new physics shattered popular beliefs that the universe could be easily explained via Newtonian physics. Scientists realized they knew less about the universe than they previously thought, which is disheartening. And uncertainty is later going to feed pessimism of European society in the wake of World War I. Because they're like, we can't be sure about anything. Everything was great, and then we just killed each other and destroyed everything. Everything sucks. The glass is half empty. Yeah. I thought it was
It is
fun.
now.
I thought it was funny.
Oh, no, I just hear it.
Oh.
MySpace is a chick.
Yo.
What's the one in between MySpace and Facebook?
Hey, this is my favorite one, though. Dear Sigmund Freud, your mom.
But,
Like, take it.
I
Dish it.
wonder when people get out of like jail, and they all check up on their MySpaces. Oh, hey, God. Where is everyone?
Did you like your like MySpace is like still out there, even if it's
I've actually never made MySpace.
oh. See, MySpace was my generation's like thing before Facebook came along, and so we just kind of abandoned it like a lost city, you know, like one of those ghost towns. And then someone told me the other day, like, look your MySpace up, it's just like there, still.
Like, I did not remember at all that I made a MySpace. And then, like, a month ago, it, like, emailed me and was like, "We
It's
missed this
back.
thing." I'm like,
Yeah, I know. It's been watching us from afar, and it's back now. And people have been on your page because I had like people on there that I was like, I didn't know you, I didn't add you. You like, how'd you get on my page? Yeah, I'm a little worried now that I've been cyber stalked for years and didn't know it. So let's talk about challenges to the church, shall we? In a modern world, nationalism in some countries decreased the influence of the Catholic Church. So not only do we have science, we also have nationalism. And a lot of students look at me like, I don't see the correlation. Nationalism, the power of the church. Well, who are you going to be loyal to is really what it comes down to. The Pope or your king or, you know, your ruler. So it's, are you going to put your nationality as your first identifier or your religion? And so that's some of the problems we have here. I cut Bismarck from the rest of this lecture, but I left him right there because he is going to give us culture comp, which we're going to see a crusade attacking the Catholic Church. And nation building in Germany and Italy will impact the church the most. You'll figure out who Bismarck is in our next unit. The rise of liberalism in the 19th century seemed to further distance the papacy from society, so our Pope gets all frustrated. He looks like a frustrated man to me. And he gives us a syllabus of errors. That's Pope Pius IX in 1864, condemning liberalism and Italian unification. The First Vatican Council in 1870 is also going to declare the doctrine of papal infallibility, which means the Pope is never wrong, ever, ever. So he couldn't, ever, ever, in cases of religion. And so if he says that liberalism and Italian unification are wrong because of religious reasons, then they are wrong. And so that just goes along with us. We also get increased popularity of rationalism and science caused alarm with the church, and that will give us the Rerum Novarum, which condemned Marxism and socialism. So they're even going to go that far. And Pope Leo the 13th will sought to permit Catholics to participate in politics. So they try to form like a Catholic political party, which is why they're against socialism and Marxism. They're trying to like take people from that. Although they will say that workers should have a living wage and there should be social justice. So they don't disagree that workers should be helped out. They just don't agree that that's the right. They're trying to pull from those people. If you think about it, I guess they were hoping that since like the lower classes were usually the most religious, that they could get them to identify more with the church than like socialism or Marxism and pull them back. And we'll see a decline in church attendance because of all of this. So that's really all you need to know there. All right, next, realism. Characteristics, opposite of Romanticism. It's a reaction to the Romantic revolutions of 1815 to 1848 and the failures of those revolutions. Characteristics, opposite of Romanticism. Belief that literature and art should depict life as it really was. Let's quit making it all flowery and poofy and happy and romantic, and let's get real. Largely a reaction, like I said, and loss of idealism. So, you guys can go ahead and laugh, because every year they just, when I say it out loud, Honoré de Balzac is our first realism in literature. France, France saw the development of the realist movement with this gentleman. He gave us the human comedy. It depicts urban societies. What? I know, right? It's a robe. I know.
He's got that pale face. Like
Yeah. Yeah. He depicts So he picks our society really rather as it is, immoral, brutal, characterized by a Darwinian struggle for wealth and power. Darwinian struggle. And so he's going to just say, hey, life sucks. Look at us, like, trying survival of the fittest. We're little lab rats out here. We get Gustave Flaubert, who gave us Madame Bovary. Portrays the provincial middle class as a petty, smug, and hypocritical. So while it has this pretty title, and you think on the surface it's about this great, bless you, middle-class woman, it's actually about a middle-class woman who, on the outside, exhibits all of those Victorian values we talked about, but really, she's having adulterous affairs and lives beyond her means. So it's the reality of underlying this perfect Victorian smugness, I guess. Emile Zola is going to give us, he's a giant of realist literature. Have any of you read Zola in high school? No? He gives us Germinal. It depicts the hard life of young miners in northern France. You can tell from the cover, yeah, that he is not playing it as like, oh, let's go work in the mines. It's like, this is horrible. So, very realist.
He's dead.
No, it's like the death and like the mines falling and yeah, no zombie. I think so. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Zola's written a lot of stuff. Germinal is the only one I've read. The translation of it anyway. So, Thomas Hardy, also a big name here. Oh, I skipped the only. Did I skip the only woman? Oh, I did. I didn't mean to. George Eliot, who's actually Mary Ann Evans, pen name George Eliot, examined ways in which people are shaped by their social class as well as their own inner strivings and conflicts. So she wrote about that you're a product of your environment. I didn't mean to skip her. She had a pen name. So Thomas Hardy gave us Tess of the De Ubervilles, which portrayed a woman who was ostracized for having premarital sex. So it illuminates that double standard of middle-class values of how women were so restricted, but yet men were not as restricted. He had a lot of works out there, too. Leo Tolstoy is our greatest Russian realist. He's pretty negative. You can just tell from his face. He's like, oh, I just want to, like, ooh, you. He had a fatalistic view, like, everything's going to go bad. Like, it doesn't matter what choice you make, it's going to be bad. With regards to love, trust, and everyday family life, like, he's just, yeah. War and Peace is his. Has anybody actually read the whole War and Peace? Yeah. There you go. What'd you think? What'd you think? Yeah, it's his masterpiece. Russian Society. What? Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's just about the Napoleonic Wars. It's for Russia, so. I mean, really good. I would advise if you get a chance to pick it up sometime in your life that you do. Make some time, though, right, Jetson? Yeah. How long did that take? Did it take you? Yeah, it takes. I haven't heard of anyone who sat and just read this. Like, you usually read parts of it and then have to pick something else up. It's a little heavy. So, Henrik Ibsen is from Scandinavia. He's the father of modern drama and had the best hair and beard ever.
It doesn't look like it's attached. That does not look like a beard. It's like that
Shakespearean neck
Yeah.
thing.
He's the father of modern drama, and his plays examine the conditions of life and issues of morality, often at odds. So he's like, okay, we have these Victorian morals, but really underneath, what are people really doing? His quote by Enrique is, "Never wear your best trousers when you go out to fight for freedom and truth." Just, yeah, just, like, he's just a cute little old man, isn't he? Just funny. So, realism in art. So, it's just like the literature. The characteristics are that they wanted to create art that was real, that wasn't, that was all romantic and not what was actually being seen. So, they go to look at it. Another thing, a change in art here, even with romantic artists, we don't have patrons anymore. You're creating art for the sake of creating art and selling it. So this starts kind of that modern art movement where you create what you want and you hope to make your living off of it, not that you create what the patron wants and make your living that way. France is the center of the art world, and we're seeking to portray life as real as it was, not idealized. Ordinary people will become the subject of numerous paintings. So that's really just the definition. It's not that hard because it's realism. It's just what was real. Trying to make it more difficult. So we'll just go through a couple here. So Gustave Courbet is going to coin the term realism. The Stone Breakers is this painting here. They are breaking stone. It is hard. Subject matter of painting. It's given to you. Francois Millet. I put the art in the corners too for you guys so you can remember. It is going to give us the gleaners. After the fields were harvested, there's scraps left, and so these women's life are so hard. They're gathering the extra scraps left after a harvest. So this is his most famous painting. Honore de Mer gave us third-class carriage. So we've talked about all these people moving from the country to the city. This is that coming in. So you can see like you have your more bourgeoisie in the back, and then they've got, you know, the peasant kind of class here with the infant and the mom, and then her daughter. So like a whole family coming to the city. And it really, if you could write a whole FRQ on this painting, on the changes to society during the 19th century movement from the country to the city. Let's see. We have Degas, French girls ironing. They are French girls ironing. It is hard labor. It's realism. So really, there's nothing more to say than that. I like Degas. I think I have a couple replicas of him in my office of his works of art. Then we have Manet, and we're going to have Monet. Manet is going to give us Le Déjeuner, c'est l'herbe, which it gets all like fanatical. I don't know what's really realist about this because, I mean, there's like naked women in the park having lunch with gentlemen.
No, like I actually read up on this.
Did
It's
you?
because he was having lunch with because he was actually having so it was
Yeah.
like he was trying to get out of the salon system, right?
Yeah, it freaks out the salon people.
Yeah.
That's like his intentions met.
Because normally like salon people they draw nudes of women, right?
Mhm.
But he drew a nude of a woman in like everyday scene.
Yeah, which was not okay.
Which was
Yeah.
not okay for the salon, but that's why it was like more nude.
Yeah. Yeah, and so got me. Yeah, I didn't study this painting. Yeah, bonus fuck you. I will sit one here, and then when I'm not attached, I will
Okay.
bring it to you. Yeah, so thank you. I always thought like, he does another one that's his next painting is a prostitute laid out, and so he did the nudes, but yeah, it's a kind of fanatic with our realist against the salon movements. I think I typed that in here. Did I talk about the salons? Not. Yeah, I did with Olympia down here. Seemed equally revolting to the salon for its casual nude portrayal. So he's trying to be a sensationalist with his realism. There's the prostitute, or more of a courtesan, really, because you can tell she's wealthy enough to have a domestic servant. Yeah, and so that was really it. So Olympia is another one, casual nude portrayal of a prostitute, shocked audiences, and then Impressionism. So what happens during this time period of realism is they develop something real called the camera. And if you're a painter, you're not going to paint any more real than what a camera can take a picture of. You can snap a picture of girls ironing laundry rather than stand there and paint it forever. So Impressionism becomes a reaction to realism, to cameras, to the perfectness of photography. And so Impressionism is trying to like capture that moment. I always like to tell you, like, shut your eyes and open them and look at the light. That's what Impressionism is trying to do. The first thing you saw when you open your eyes. It's like the blurry. It's like that moment you wake. So here's where we get Monet. Monet was the foremost Impressionist painter. Impression Sunrise is this painting. So you can see, like, it's just like if you just open your eyes and tried to capture the sunrise, that's what you get. They're painted very quickly to capture the moment. He's most famous for a series of paintings called the Water Lilies. Probably familiar.
I like
Yeah.
Impression Sunrise.
Yeah, I'm actually a bigger fan of some of his other works, but the Water Lilies are just massive. Yeah, bonus bucks up. Steven, say it like he's a realist. He's on it. Second semester. La Promenade. Rouen Cathedral. And so then we have Renoir. Should be up next. Yep. Also very infamous during this time period. La Bala Moulin. La Jalette. So it's just that very... I'm just capturing the moment very quickly. In addition to landscapes, however, he painted subjects in candid poses and also nude figures to kind of break out of the mold. I should have Pizarro in it. Oh, nope, there's another one of Renoir. Bather arranges hair. There's one of his nudes. So here's Pizarro. He's considered by some to be the true father of Impressionism. And so he has actually some works and paints some of the other Impressionist artists. Garden at Pontoise. Okay, so Morisot, considered one of the greatest female artists of the late 19th century, focused on scenes in domestic life. So we're going to go Romanticism, Realism, Impressionism, and then they're going to switch to even Post-Impressionism. They don't think they have a fancy enough name for the reaction to Impressionism. It's Post-Impressionism. And it was the desire to know and depict worlds other than visible. So this is where the Freudian thing comes in. So the Impressionists are like, okay, we're still capturing real scenes. Like, you open your eyes, there's a garden there. But the Post-Impressionists will go, that's not good enough. We need to paint a feeling. What about the dreams you have? What about your mood? We must paint those. And so they try to paint like the psychological view, and this is where Cubism will come in. So you get Van Gogh with our Post-Impressionists, so Starry Night. So like the dream in your head of what a starry night might look like. We're going to see that they sought to portray the unseen. And so you wouldn't have seen this vision, this very dreamlike, very kind of surreal. And it's supposed to make you feel something. One of the most famous portraits of Van Gogh is of him after he's cut off his ear. I'm sure that you guys have seen that one. To send it to his estranged lover that he had just spelled. Your love's got me looking so crazy right now. Yeah, that'll make it look better. Gauguin gives us Where Do We Come From portrait. A lot of his stuff is based on the South Pacific, and he pioneered our expressionist techniques. So a lot of his themes are South Pacific. Who's up next? Cezanne. You guys have probably all seen these. I didn't do like when they make you like do still lifes. Do they show one of these every time? So his, you're like that's not in my dreams. His stuff was very formed. It was almost like our realism from the beginning, and then later his works became increasingly abstract. But at the beginning, they're very like, oh, look at the apples on the table. Matisse, La Barre de Vivre, is going to be our most important French artist of the 20th century. Expressionism of a group of painters led by him. It was so extreme that it prompted shock critics to call the Les Favres the wild beasts. Like, this was just horrible. It just drove people crazy, and it wasn't allowed to be printed. That's going to bring us to Picasso. We're going a little further than we are in politics, but it kind of all goes together. There's another Matisse. So Picasso, most important artist of the 20th century, most would say, founded Cubism, which is zigzag and overlapping. Mademoiselle d'Avignon is one of his biggest, is considered his Cubism masterpiece. So also quite some uproar. He will also give us analytical cubism, which is who you can see in the accordionist. Do you guys see the accordion or the accordionist in this set? Yeah. Some people can't. Like, I see, like, glimpses, but then sometimes when I look at it, I can't see it at all. But that's just, like, that interpretation, like, what's in your head kind of thing. Yeah. I guess there's some triangle formation there, yeah. Georges Braque is also going to be in this group. Analytical Cubism, violin and candlestick. I think I can see a candlestick and maybe a violin. And then Expressionism, Wassily Kandinsky. You see a lot of these. Like I have this one and I have that one. They're really easy to match your furniture to. Because this would be a mood. These are supposed to be each a mood. I don't know what mood. Like I don't sit in my living room and go, oh, I'm feeling this mood from this painting. It just matched every colored couch I've ever had, so it was a keeper. But I mean, they're also, I don't know. Sometimes I look at them and try to figure out what the shapes are in there, but non-figural painting. Yeah, Kandinsky. Yeah. So that's all we're covering in art. Does all of that make sense? The stages and what's going on in the world that is reflected in these stages. All right.